I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 6:01, October 7th. I'll start with a roll call.
Mrs. Frazier?
Here.
Mr. Markovitz?
Here.
Mr. Midley?
Here.
Mr. Sharma?
Here.
Mr. Spice?
Here.
Okay, no one is absent today. We have minutes from September 16th. This meeting, was it held on September 16th?
The last meeting.
We actually held the meeting on Tuesday, September 21st, correct?
Yes.
Okay. On the agenda, it says approval of minutes from September 16th, so it needed to be noted that the meeting actually occurred on Tuesday, September 21st, which is not a regularly scheduled day, but it was advertised. And we did have 4 cases, I believe. 3?
Yeah.
3 cases that were able to come that night. First case, I want to take a minute and read through the last case a little bit. First case, the second case were both approved as submitted. The third case has 2 pages of notes. So I don't know, did everyone get a chance to read through those yet?
I did.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Nobody has. So I'm going to vote to table the approval of the minutes until everyone's had a chance to look through those, since nobody, I don't think we received them in our email.
Yeah.
So no one has seen them yet.
I thought I just overlooked it.
Or we can take a few minutes. Do we have more than one copy here?
I don't know if I have.
There should just be the one in the book.
All right.
I think-
Let's table it at least to the end of the meeting so we can take our cases.
Okay.
And then we can take a few minutes to read it through and vote on it toward the end.
Okay.
Okay. If anyone would like to stay to hear that, you're welcome to stay. It's not going to be after the meeting, it'll be after your cases. Okay. So a motion to table.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Sharma?
Yes.
Mr. Markovitz?
Yes.
Mr. Midley?
Yes.
Mr. Spice?
Yes.
And then next on the agenda is public participation. This is the time in the meeting if anyone would like to come speak who is not on the agenda as a case number. So, okay. Would you like to approach the microphone so that you can be on record? Thank you. Okay, start with your name and what you'd like to speak about.
Okay, my name is Mary Stencil. I live at 2679 East Aurora Road, and I would like to voice concerns about case number 210864, which is an addition that's being built next door to my house.
Okay.
I think it's too big. I think they're trying to squeeze it onto a lot that's too small to accommodate it. It's too close to my house. It's too close to the sidewalk. It's just too big. I think it encroaches on my privacy. It encroaches on my quality of living. First, I like looking out my windows, and this looks like it's so big. They showed me drawings of the addition in relation to my house, and honestly, even the upstairs bedroom window could be blocked, as well as sitting on the porch and looking down the sidewalk. Secondly, they're trying to fit a turnaround drive in the back, and every car that uses it is going to flash its headlights into my house, because my house sits right there. I do think they designed it that way because there's not enough room to do it the right way. There is a storm sewer easement that they have to contend with. And I'm sure that the city realizes that, when it rains hard, it's already runs at full capacity. And I've actually seen water shooting up out of the sewer grate like a fountain. So if they're putting pavement all around that, and then there is flooding or even pooling water, is that gonna spill over onto my property? Which again, my house sits right there. I bet my foundation isn't but like 12 feet away from that sewer grate. Looking down the street, there's big houses and little houses next to each other, but none of them look like they encroach because the lots are bigger down there. My house is a century home, but it's just a little house. My value is that the close proximity to the square, my visibility, and my curb appeal. And I think building anything that big and that close is going to have a negative impact on my property values. As homeowners, we all want to do the most with our property. But where do you draw the line when you're infringing on your neighbor's property? I don't know that zoning requirements can be the only guidelines for that. So the question is, does a person's right to do what they want end if it infringes on my rights? Because their plans may meet the minimum zoning requirements, but don't they violate the very intention of what those requirements have been put in place to protect? I've lived here 18 years, and I've worked hard to improve my property too, for my own enjoyment, for my livelihood, and for the community. How does allowing an addition for their business justify reducing my property values? Because I dare say anyone looking at those drawings immediately can see the negative impact that it has on me. I have known all along that they want to build an addition, and I've always been good with that because they wanted more rental income. And it's always been my understanding that when they bought the house, they had a 5-year plan to get a business up and running and then sell it. So it makes me question why they're calling it a residential addition, because no one lives there. They never have lived there. And I don't think if there's no one living there that you can actually call it an in-law suite. I think it's just a rental unit. Be that as it may, if they want a residential addition, I suggest that it be restricted to residential use only. And when they do go to sell it, I think that restriction should carry over to the new owners. And that way, at the very least, I'm protected from a rental unit that's just steps away from my back porch and strangers coming and going every week. And maybe it will protect the city from absentee landlords in the future. I'm not a confrontational person, but sometimes you just have to speak up when you see something that's just not right. And I don't think this should be approved the way it's being presented. I think that there has to be a better way. There has to be a way for Steve and Chris to get the extra space they want, protect my rights, and maybe give the city some control over how that space is going to be used in the future. But I think it all starts with designing a space-appropriate building for the space that they have to work with, something that would meld into the neighborhood better. That's all I have. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay.
Is this a zoning situation or?
There,
There hasn't been anything brought up yet as a zoning issue that I'm aware of.
I don't believe the case has been to BZA yet.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so the first case on the agenda is the Church Street, which is 210864 case number. Before we start that, we also have a letter here. Did everyone get a chance to look at the letter that's here?
I'm reading it right
You're reading it
now.
right
Yeah,
now? If you'll give us just a moment too, this goes with the public participation, we received a letter too.
Concerning this?
Yeah, it's about the same thing.
Yeah, it's about the same case. Don, did you get a chance to read the letter?
Can we have a
I
copy?
just start passing it
Oh,
down.
it's right here. Is it this one? We have two letters.
This is a follow-up.
Here's one. And this is the other.
Was that copies of that?
Yeah, I can give you that.
Yeah, I don't.
For the record, the letters that we have, one was written by Mary Stencil on August 10th, and the other one by Stuart Dunn on September 21st. And I assume a copy of them would be available, I don't know, if it's available publicly or how it works. But
Yeah, I gave them a copy.
Okay, okay,
It's from Mary.
okay.
It's still.
You want to address, I don't think it should address the issue by issue. It's matter
No.
of property rights, what you can do it as long as we move along.
Okay. The letter from Mary Stencil, I believe, was
Alright.
recorded in her conversation just now. I believe everything on here was spoken on record. Okay. The letter from Stuart Dunn notes that he's understanding that many of the protections and requirements for historic properties have been lifted. But it seems unusual for such an addition to be constructed on a historic home in a historic section of Twinsburg. The house, I believe, is not designated as a historical property and thus could have changes made, correct?
That's correct.
Is her house on 82 or on Ravenna?
The address is Church Street, but it's on the corner. Our,
Your house is,
Yeah.
her house is
Mary's house is on 82.
on
the road.
82.
You can see it if you
Yeah.
look through the paperwork. The satellite photo shows the property lines between us and points out the 12-foot setback that we are respecting from that
Mhm.
property line. It's on page C1, I think it is, of, I'm looking up the packets.
We got that.
So one of the major concerns brought up in this letter is the use of the property. So not just the character of the massing, but the use. And I'd be curious to know who is governing the use of commercial versus short-term rental versus residential? What city entity is responsible for that?
The property has evolved from just Greenbridge Tea House because primarily with the pandemic to Greenbridge Tea House B&B. So it isn't short-term rentals in the sense of somebody looking for a place for 3 months. It's more, we get a lot of interest from travelers to the national park and a whole lot of interest really across the states from people who are interested in it as a tea house. So I don't know if you'd call it short-term rental. It's definitely a passive.
We can refer to it then as a B&B if
Right.
that's more preferable. And
That
I
is
don't
what-
think that the location in the town is inappropriate for a B&B. because
Well,
it
no, it's
is
right on the
in a
corner.
mixed-use district.
Right.
I don't know the exact zoning of that
It's-
particular property, if that's considered mixed use, if that's
C5.
considered,
C5,
it's C5,
residential and commercial.
residential, commercial,
That's
mixed
one of the
use.
smartest things I think that the council did, was try to encourage the development, the productive use, and the improvement of the properties.
And I know that that is the zoning that they are encouraging in the downtown area, trying to get a mixed-use, live,
Exactly.
work, walkable environment, so I understand that.
Correct.
So I don't think that that use is inappropriate to this site, being a corner site in a mixed-use neighborhood with commercial across the street and residential next door. I don't think that that's an inappropriate use, although this board isn't supposed to be determining use.
Well, even next door is both commercial and residential. Mary runs her business from her home.
Are you occupying the house as your residence
We
right
are
now?
not, although if this addition goes up, we said, this is so nice, we might think about it. We are not at this time, no.
Right.
Right. As far as being, a mother-in-law suite, I mean, it determines who it could be anything depending on who your mother-in-law is. Being that it's upstairs, maybe it's not an elderly mother-in-law, but who knows if it's a young couple who has a nanny or who has an au pair, or there's many different uses. So
Well,
the fact
that's
that it
just a
doesn't,
generic kind of title for,
Right.
small, but quality living.
right, and it does not connect internally, at least I haven't looked at the current plans, but the former plans we had seen, it doesn't connect on the interior. It only connects from the exterior. I don't know if that's.
That's
Well,
correct.
it's attached, but it doesn't connect.
Correct, yeah, you
No,
cannot
you'd have to go
pass
outside.
from one unit to another through the interior.
Right.
You'd have to go outside and around and
Well,
out.
that's a choice.
So then you could call it a duplex. There's a lot of ways we can phrase this. You could call it a duplex unit then, if the access is only from the exterior and there's two separate living units. So that's something to consider if this is
It's not considered, well, you
Yeah, I don't
consider
know, I don't
it
even know
delight.
if we can even say anything about
Well, I'm
this.
trying to determine what the appropriate character of a building is that has this sort of function.
Yeah, I
If
don't,
we call it a live-work unit, because it's business and residential, or if you consider it to be a duplex, or if you consider it to be a B&B, any of those uses, I think, is an appropriate way to describe this property.
And appropriate.
I think that those,
It is
right, I think that they
Yeah,
are all
appropriate, yeah.
appropriate ways to describe this property, yes. It could be a B&B, it could be a mother-in-law suite, it could be a live-work unit, it could be.
It could be totally residential.
Right, and anybody
If
can
you
turn their house
were
into a
inclined.
short-term, anyone could turn it into a long-term rental or a short-term rental. That's not this board at all, that's what I was wondering, there's a difference
No,
in the
you're-
entity that governs that. So as far as use goes,
I think we're looking here for the approval of the architecture, of
Correct.
the looks and the situation of it,
correct.
and the fact that if you look at I hope you have those new prints.
Right,
Yeah.
but we approve different characters based on the use also. We don't
Right.
approve commercial looks in a residential neighborhood
No.
or residential looks in something that we know is
We're
going to
trying
be business.
very
It's
hard
kind of
to get
weird.
this to suit the 1890 character of the house.
Correct.
As a matter of fact, you'll see the suggestions you all had to offer.
We are still on public participation regarding the letter. I was trying to bring up the points that were brought up on the letter.
Yes, they are.
Okay, and so, so as I was saying with the letter, one of his concerns was what the use is for this, and I think that we do need to consider what the use is as we determine what's appropriate architecturally. That it is looking to be a B&B or a duplex, two rental unit, or a mixed-use commercial live-work upstairs, downstairs, behind. So, okay. One of the notes is chapter 771.04 regarding short-term rental host requirements and the need to have a garage. So the reduction of a garage on this property, we can discuss that when it gets to the case here, but that could perhaps be an issue. If we are saying that the garage is too big, they need to reduce it to a one-car garage, that could hinder their business and then be brought up as a way that they, that they need a two-car garage in order to operate, because we've talked about that, whether you reduce the size of the garage and the garage becomes a 1.5-car garage instead of a 2-car garage. You never brought up that you needed it for, based on code and only being able to have as many guests as you have there
No.
and needing parking
The point
spaces.
is, the use of space and that a two-car garage, even if there's only one car in it, I mean, it's the appropriate use of space to get the living quarters.
The right size living quarters
To be
upstairs.
Because we have a one-car garage right now. It's a cute little shed garage from 1938 or something,
Mhm.
but it's showing its age.
Mhm.
It's nice and steep. I don't know how you're pulling it out of that.
Well, that's another thing, is the safety factor is part of this whole thing, because backing out onto 82, you know, takes a lot of thought and caution and prayer. So yeah, turning around is part of the thing we want to be able to do. I'm sure when that garage was built, 82 didn't have the traffic on it that it has today. So.
Yeah. Isn't that long ago, since? Either did 91.
Right.
They did, it was also described, and it is somewhat accurate, I don't wanna call it a motel because it's so small, but it does have that characteristic if it is unoccupied by the residents and operated in a non-contact way where,
It's operating in a non-contact way because of COVID.
right,
We set it up, we are getting an awful lot of people, the research on Airbnb is that people want a no-contact opportunity, a way to stay without direct contact till this pandemic is over. So that is a,
right. No, it's, but I mean, the concern is, and it should be a concern of anybody living nearby, is that it will be unknown occupants that come and go without contact with the owners. And so that is, you know,
they're
it's
not
not,
unknown, everybody is vetted.
okay.
Airbnb does
under
that sort of
right.
thing.
I don't wanna linger on this too long, going back and forth with dialogue. I'm trying to record for the record some of the concerns. The letter should be recorded also, but just so it's said out loud, so if things come up
Right.
later, that these
Yeah,
are,
that's understood.
I think these are legitimate concerns, and you should think that they're legitimate concerns too.
I think they're to be expected.
Right.
Whether or not they're legitimate, it all depends on calling it a hotel or a motel. I would never do that.
Right, that's what I'm saying, the exact word you use to describe it, I mean, there's many words we can use, and that could depend on how you're using it, and it can depend on the next person who buys your property. I don't know how long you're gonna hold on to it, nobody
Well,
knows.
And my business plan
Nobody knows.
is not the point of this.
Right, and business plans can
discussion.
change, we don't wanna linger on what your plan is, we need to look at what the property is, what the use can be, what the use will be, what it looks like.
And
for our
this is why
community.
we thought the C5 zoning was really one of the most progressive things that the city did.
Mm-hmm.
To try to encourage. As a matter of fact, it encourages a resident to run their shop out of their home, which is great. And if the question is, do we live there? If that makes people more comfortable, well, I'll just tell you that we thought about it and we are thinking about it, but the way
No,
this
we've had people come through say that they're gonna buy this property and they're gonna retire in it, and you know they're not.
well, I don't know if they
You
are
look
or
up,
not.
I'm not saying, and we can't make any decisions on that. We can't make decisions
No.
on plans because they change. We have to look at what the structure is, you know, whether you decide to stay and use it for 15 years or you decide to sell it next year as soon as you get it built. We have no say in that. We just need to make sure that what's built is appropriate for the community.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And
So I
I
think
wanted
that-
to address one of Mary's concerns about the runoff of the water. Years ago, she had problems with her basement. The water was filling up the basement. And people on the property at the time gave an easement, 12-foot easement, so that a sewer line could go in. Now, the drain for the sewer line is at the back of,
Not
water
sewer,
line,
water.
runoff water. Yeah, it's at the back corner of the property where everything flows into that spot and then goes out to the road.
Okay.
That's why it was put in, so that would alleviate her problem in her basement.
And that's
What
also,
we plan on doing the same thing, have it all drained towards that. And of course, it's got to go through the city engineer anyway to make sure that the line can handle it.
Okay, so I think for
if
the
you can't,
record,
I think that's,
I think that for the record, we need to make sure that the city engineer who's considered impervious pavement and water drainage. As this,
She actually did speak
There
to
should
us
be-
about that.
there should also be something in the code about percent of site that is allowed to be paved. And
Right, we were looking into,
has that been
That'll
looked
be
into?
determined by the engineer once.
That would be the
it reaches their
engineer
desk, yeah.
also, right? And we could make a big deal of this and then get through this process, and then you go and they say, I'm sorry, only 60% of the site is allowed to be covered, and you're covering 78%. And then you're gonna have to reduce the size. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but every site does have that percent that is allowed to be covered by impervious pavement. So then you'd have the option of making your driveway out of cobblestones so that it
no,
drains,
that's
you know.
not even facetious, because there are environmentally sound ways to pave. You know,
Mhm.
like grandma's old narrow brick lines and the
Right.
grass in between. So
There are
You
ways
know,
to
I
do
don't think
this.
that's a,
But it is of concern, and I think it should be noted for the record, because we are talking about the amount of the lot that's being covered, and that's been
Right.
our concern, you know, the size of it, how close it is to the street, all of that. We haven't called the case up yet, so we are still,
No, maybe
we are
should
still
have
on
that.
public participation, but we are discussing
Maybe call
concerns that were
it
brought
patience.
up during that.
Oh,
See,
I thought we were.
that was our public participation. Call us when you're ready.
So
I
I
just
do
want to
think,
say, I
right.
understand there's a number of hurdles to go through to
we're
make sure we're doing
we're
this
going
right.
to call you up here right now, but we were still on we were discussing the letter that was sent by Stuart Dunn, and I want to put a close to that.
Yeah.
We brought up his concerns. I'm saying that there are a few other city entities that need to be consulted before this project would go through, such as the city engineer for percent covered, percent of lot covered, and drainage. So I think that needs to be looked at there. And then also, it's not my determination based on, you know, whether this should be C5 and how they can operate in that. That's another city entity, and I think whoever that is should be flagged on this case that, you know, it's going from, so, all right. So we'll go on to the actual case, sorry, which is 210864, 9036 Church Street. We've finished the public participation.
We're holding off on the minutes then, right?
We're holding off on the minutes to the end. I'm doing all the talking, okay, that's hard.
And now
Okay.
we're past it.
Okay. All right, so drawings.
Yeah, okay.
Another thing.
Do you have your own, or are you shooting with anyone? We have two copies of you. There, one. I have one.
There were 5.
You have the same one I do.
Okay.
The thing.
It's the smaller scale one that is the update.
That's
Yeah,
the one.
that's the
Yes.
one.
Is that the new one, right?
That's the new one. The bigger ones are, yeah.
Yeah, we have the bigger one, and then we have a small one. And then we have
Smaller one is the current one
Medium.
with the, lot.
That's correct.
Medium.
That's the correct
Okay.
one, the
What is
smaller
it?
one.
1 by 18 or something?
That's,
11 by 7. Yeah, 11 by
You have
17.
the same
that's
one.
the next case.
I
Or
don't even
12 by
have one
18,
then.
maybe.
Yeah. We only had a chance to look at through. When you get done, let us know. They're the new ones.
This was that's what I thought.
If it would be helpful, I can point out the 5 things that were your recommendations and what pages they're on, if you'd like.
Okay, so I'm just noticing, before you point out what was a recommendation, some things I'm noticing that have seemed to have changed are the addition of a retaining wall behind the property in order to facilitate a 3-point turn perhaps.
Right.
Well, you know, that was drawn in there as a retaining wall, but
You have
it may
this
just
stuff
be
now,
a sloped
Yeah, they do.
Drive,
drive.
just like our front drive is sloped there.
You know, it's
Okay.
not that big of a house.
We
I thought that was
some-
interesting, because those are
Floor.
helpful, but
Well,
but it actually does
See,
show
I
up in
think
here as a
that
retaining
when
wall.
we sent this back to redraw again, I mean, maybe that was added, and we didn't even know it was adding it. I mean, our communication was kind of overlapping there for a while.
So you might be regrading the north side of the property to avoid a retaining wall?
I don't think we have to regrade it. I think we leave it where it is. It's on a slope. And,
You mean for the,
as
to eliminate the retaining wall?
I'm seeing this, sorry, Don, I'm seeing
Oh,
this,
come on.
this U-shaped retaining wall behind.
Oh, yeah, I don't know why you put that in there, because that slopes at a very slight angle downward, and everything slopes toward this back corner here where the drain is, okay?
Okay.
And this would be on a slope, and no retaining wall would be
So you think
necessary.
someone could just drive onto that without retaining wall?
well, yeah, you can now.
And, yeah, okay.
All right, I didn't know if this was an
No, it's
extreme
nothing.
move trying to make things work that would be, okay.
No, I think.
Plus it also
there's
changed
some
all the
huge
drainage.
Rock foundations. I think he was thinking about dragging them over and using them. I mean, they're,
They're not on our property.
but they're not. Oh, is that right?
That's,
Well, then forget
that's
it.
the chamber house.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
Can you kind of explain the change in the plan?
Yeah, why don't-
Yes,
Shift
yes,
in the
yes.
building and-
At our last meeting where you made your recommendations, and if you would look at page A9 first, instead of having a cosmetic gable, we put in a secondary gable, I believe it's,
More defined, right?
yeah, it's well defined now. It's no longer cosmetic and it's jutted out
On the foundation.
on a foundation. Also on A9, you'll see that the carriage house effect is more pronounced with the garage doors now indicating almost a pull-out sort of way, as a carriage house might have. That was another recommendation.
Well, and that's in the back.
So we, there's still doors like that, even though they rise overhead, as you well know, they still look like they open carriage doors. Now, that's on the north end of the house, which is not 82, so but not many people would see that anyway. When you're done with those two, I'll have you, if you would, look at pages A1 and 2.
Yeah, the front. That's the foundation. The biggest thing there is that we changed the size of the garage from 24 by 24. It's now 24 by 22. So we shrunk it a couple feet, as well as pushed back the foundation to be in line with the current house.
Which was a big
So there was
concern.
a lot of concern over being too close to the sidewalk. So we pushed it back. It's in line with the house, and the whole garage is smaller by considerable, 2 feet by 24, whatever that is, 50 square feet. And of course, we put that window in on the west side. That was one of the first things you mentioned.
Right, we didn't want a blank elevation.
Right, that's, just one of those things. So we put it in. We had some discussion about whether or not to connect it, and we felt that since the primary, the lower level is all garage, that we weren't going to do that. So we're keeping it separate. Also, when we shrunk the garage, then the upper patio deck there is maybe 5.5 feet instead of 8 feet. So that is also reduced. And for some reason, a lot of people who look at these drawings think this is a lot bigger than it is. It's a very small house.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe because the drawings don't have the rest of the world around it, but it's only 1,400 square feet
Yeah, I
in the
made
first
that comment
place, and
before
this
too.
addition is half that maybe.
It's giant.
On a big paper, yeah, on that.
It's not that big.
So it's in keeping with the nature of its history, small.
Slopes on it, so steep, makes it.
Yeah.
We think it's a natural improvement.
Yeah. What your the existing house is how many square foot? I know I went through it last time here, but
1475, I think it is.
how much is it?
1475?
And then the addition's about the same.
No, what is the addition?
Addition is about, we talk, not without the garage, you're not talking the garage, are you? Well, the upstairs, I think, is, it's the same
24 by-
dimensions as 24 by 22, so what does that make
Plus-
it? Around 500 square feet?
Plus the portico.
And then
So
you
it
have
might be
another-
600,
400 square foot garage, basically.
right, about.
Yeah, or something.
It's not as big as the picture looks.
Not as big at all. I mean, it's a moderate garage by today's standards.
Any other changes?
Those are the only changes since the last time.
Yeah, I think we,
The big
I
thing
think those,
is
yeah.
back in line with the current foundation.
I think
Away
that
from
that's
the-
very important.
That was, I understand that, a lot of concern over how close to the sidewalk. So it's in line with the current foundation. The secondary gable is more defined. The actual foundation is flooded out. And reduce
It
the
has a
size.
carriage garage door effect
Yeah.
on the back end of the property.
Right.
Yeah.
That was another one that was recommended.
And the size of the garage is a little smaller. And we already understand that, you know, water runoff or whatever, there may be some more things to, before we would get a permit. But here, we're looking for your approval on the appearance and nature of it. Because whether or not somebody wants to argue with what kind of business it is, or whether or not we live there, or whether we don't, it isn't really,
Right.
I don't
We're
want to
looking at-
vote on that.
Right, I wanted to record it for the record that
Right,
these
I
were written
understand.
into us and that we are taking into consideration the type of
Right, I
business,
understand.
the type of zoning, the type of neighboring properties. We are taking that into consideration when looking at the design of this.
Right, that's for
Particular
that
structure.
page, I think it's C1 has aerial view of the neighborhood.
I'm sorry, which page?
I think it's C1.
I haven't gotten that far yet. Okay, I'm still working my way through. I'm looking at the elevations right now.
Is it C1?
I'm looking.
So although this is a two-story property because or two-story addition because the garage is on the first floor and the living space is on the second, at the street level, it really is about a 1.5 story. It's
And-
not really 2 stories at the street level.
See, this
On
is
street
why,
level, that's
because
correct.
it's such a deep slope
Correct.
that we thought this really suits the property. Best use, it's like half of the garage is underground almost from the 82 appearance at least.
Right. So the windows are not lining up with the existing house. They are up about 1/2 story. I mean, I don't know, 2 to 3 feet, maybe 3 feet. So it would, if it ever connected, it would function as a split level
Well, it isn't connecting. Of course, you could
from the
walk-
interior.
The thing is, you could walk out of the garage, across the portico and into the basement of the other house, which has a walkout basement. So, I mean, if somebody really wanted to connect it, I suppose you could, because the doors are on the same level. When you're standing in that drive, or in the
Okay.
garage anyway.
So when you come out the side door of the garage, there's a door on the basement that you,
Yes.
The
Okay.
current house, there's a door on the basement.
and
Yeah.
those are in alignment underneath that bridge for a covered
They
passage?
could be.
No.
They're not like in alignment, like right across from each other.
Right, but they're both under that
But
bridge?
they're on the same level. It's the same level. If you walk out the garage
You can
into
walk
that
the basement, right.
walkway, you'd walk directly, if you add an angle 45, you'd walk into the basement.
Okay.
Just be curious now.
Yes.
Have you guys ever lived in that property yourself?
No, we haven't lived there. It took us the first couple of years to renovate it and get the tea house open. We were open for 5 years when the pandemic hit, so.
Yeah, this was my wife's passion, this is her dream. Okay?
Well, it's brought a lot of good to
So I
life,
said,
so.
okay, we'll buy the property, it was a good time to buy. And if you only get one chance in life to do what you want, so this is her dream.
Well, honestly, most of the feedback that I get is so overwhelmingly positive. People love it. Read the reviews on Airbnb, read the reviews of the tea house.
Yeah.
It's been a good thing for the community.
Yeah, she's a super host, she has a 5-star rating. People love coming.
Yeah,
They-
well,
they-
okay.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. I mean,
That's
if you
part of
weren't
it.
rated well, I mean,
But anyway, it's not a,
Yeah. I know.
and as a unique business, you know, there's not a lot of businesses that you can fit into both a neighborhood and a commercial in the center of town. And this is one of those things that fits.
Yeah, right. It's gonna be happening, right?
Thank you for the nice photos.
Oh,
Yeah, it's nice to see them. It puts it in perspective too.
right. It also tones down that visual of this massive house, which it certainly isn't. Can I see one? Let me see the area.
Okay.
You know, sometimes the drawings will do it justice.
So-
When you see that, so you see those doors, those kind of shapes.
There may be a
And you see them in the
plan.
drawings
Here we
sometimes,
go.
just- They're not that detailed, you know.
We also kept
This-
oh, go ahead.
looks as though it would not hinder the view
This
at
is
all
like a
from the
two-bedroom
porch to the square.
You know, you just see them.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, the porch next door,
Yeah,
now that it has moved back in
Yes.
alignment with the house,
yes.
it doesn't appear that it would be in the view at all from the porch of the neighbor to the square,
That's correct.
I don't know if that's true or not.
hindering the view. I mean, they can definitely see it from
No,
the porch.
because before we had it up to the front end of the porch, now it's all the way back to our foundation.
Right,
It's
if
in
you
line with
are
our
back in
foundation.
alignment with your current, if
When you
you're
were
in alignment with
showing-
your current house,
Pardon me?
as shown on this plan,
What page are you on there, John?
C1,
E1.
Let's
C1.
see this one.
Oh, okay. So
And that was one of the major concerns we were looking at, if, you know, we are really blocking somebody's view, they wanted to, but this isn't. If it's back in alignment with your house, it's not extending forward from your current house.
No,
It shouldn't.
nor is it extending behind our current house.
Right, it is within the rectangular footprint, just extended, yeah.
Correct.
As
That's
a matter of
correct.
fact, we have a photo from like 1895 of the doctor that lived there, and there was a barn in this footprint at the time. So
Okay.
we're kind of recreating
Going
that.
back, yeah.
Right.
When you were showing the plans to the neighbor, were they the newer plans or the older?
The older plans, the,
So she hasn't seen the new
No,
layout with the
didn't know that-
setback more and.
no, didn't know that it set back from the sidewalk, didn't know that it had been reduced to
In
You know, it was
size.
a real surprise that she was shocked, because I've talked to her about this any number of times, that we were putting a garage there with an apartment up. So it should have been no surprise at that
Well,
point.
she just
Yeah.
overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure, I could see she's
Well,
very
and-
emotional.
We did vote no on the first one that came through for the same reasons that she came in after and talked with us
understand.
about. We had already voted with the same concerns,
Which
that
is
it
why
was
we changed
too
it.
close to the street,
Right.
that it was probably hindering the view from the neighbors, that it
Didn't know
was,
that was a concern at the time.
I
thought
think,
The
I'm not
only
sure if it's on
concern
record,
was
but I
the
think it
distance
was.
from the street.
Distance from the street, yeah. And that when we talked about when we traveled down 82 going east or west,
Oh,
that it
you
would,
wanted to see a window when you approached it.
the
That was-
yeah, seeing some sort of window on the side, and that we were worried that it was, the new massing was going to block the view of the
I
existing.
don't recall that discussion,
Okay,
but
I don't recall
heard it
that
now.
either.
okay.
I think a lot of things.
All right.
Yeah, also, it seemed to looking, I know she made a comment about headlights
Right.
coming in, and it looks like that drive where they'd be turning around is more behind her house. She still may get some light, but probably not as much as she was thinking.
No,
All
I think
I
you're
know-
getting more lights from Route
And
82.
even at the worst, if you had to plant some shrubbery right there on that edge to
Well,
block the
yeah,
light,
and
that's.
she's done that.
So-
She's got a nice hedgerow growing.
Actually, she's
Over
got
her
a full
property.
line of forsythia
And
there on
ours.
the property. They're about 8 feet tall.
You
She
guys
wouldn't
are
see
good
any
on
lights.
That's like a secondary.
I'm ready for it, I guess.
I'll make
Then
a
there's
motion.
always privacy fences or whatever.
So
I'll make
the only other thing I was gonna bring up, because honest, I think that I'm on a good phase here, you're good, okay. I think that the overall massing is now back to, an appropriate size and an appropriate location on the lot.
That's good.
As a courtesy to the neighbor, I would consider planting, some sort of trees on the west side. Probably, because we did put a window in that's facing, I don't know what is on her property in that location.
Porch.
I mean, it's not, we can't, I don't think we can require plantings. I don't know if we can or not.
We could.
But I would recommend
There
doing
is
it.
a big hedgerow there now, but
Okay.
it could be.
From the second
thicker
story window though, you know, looking
Out.
out.
First, you
Right.
mean the
Well-
neighbor's secondary window?
I'm looking at things that can be done to help appease and make everything smooth over here. I would consider planting something at the back by the driveway so that headlights don't shine on her property.
It's pretty much done already, but if we need to
If
do
you
that,
wanna,
we'll do
yeah,
it.
it is, there's a lot there. but-
Right,
I mean, we can do
make
that.
that a
I mean,
recommendation.
But I'm
Um,
telling you, you probably get a lot more lights from Route 82 hitting that house and horns and everything else than.
Oh, I know, there's trucks that drive by, there's a lot of things that go on in this part, but I'm looking at what were the concerns that were brought up, and if we're going to pass this large addition that's being put on, what can we do to make sure that things are smoothed over in the community? And I think that those are some small things that could be done.
Right, maybe even evergreens so that they don't lose their leaves.
Correct.
But
Evergreens,
Can we
and
plant the
I would do
evergreen?
evergreens on the northwest where the driveway is, and maybe a deciduous
Yeah, well, that'd be there
tree
too.
toward the front so we can see the window and we don't just block the window that we just put in to give character to that side of the house.
Actually, I don't, she
I
has,
didn't,
Okay.
you
a number of
recall,
times I've been there, from any one of her windows, she can still see the square where she saw it
Well,
before.
we don't know, that's not the
Well,
issue.
all right.
Okay, and then the
Yeah.
last thing I was just looking at, the rear elevation looks good, the side elevation, especially if you have some evergreens planted, the driveway and along the side a little bit so we don't see the blank side as much. Just the square window,
We have
Down-
3 square windows in the old house.
yes, no, I like the square window. I'm just
Oh, I thought
debating
you
if
were-
it should be in the small gable or if it should be in the big gable, or if it should be the same size as the one that's on the back in the big gable and then a small decorative one in the small gable. I mean, we're talking
Well,
small
I know
things
there's
here.
lots of possibilities, but
Right.
what we have there
Right,
suits it from the inside and the outside.
okay.
Because if you change it or get rid of it on the inside,
I wouldn't get rid of it, I'm just looking at sizes. I mean, we're talking minutia here. If should it be the same size as the one on the back? Does it look too small, or? I don't know.
Yeah, I
David, what do you
so.
think of the windows?
Looks
It's not about the one on the front looks smaller than the one on the back. That would,
Yeah,
it
I
is.
was just, I mean, we're in a minutia here. I think you're in a good place. This to me seems more balanced. That looks small. You see how that one's in the small gable here? And then I think on the front. Sorry, where's the S? Where's the pictures?
Let me see one.
Oh, here we go. There's an elevation. That's the side. I'm trying to find the front.
You're looking for a picture of the front of the
Yeah,
house?
I'm looking for the, here it is, A16. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
C16.
We've got the square window in the small gable on the side, we have the square window and the small gable on the front. And so that's what I was just wondering, is if that same size square window is supposed to be in the small gable? And would a bigger window be in the big gable, to match the one like in the back?
I wouldn't put one above,
You wouldn't put one above?
because I think that, because you'd have to have a small one there and a bigger one there.
That seems weird, doesn't it? To me, there was just something odd about it, and I didn't know if you had a good solution for it.
Not really, because it's, yeah,
Events,
you've got,
would you put a small, square? No.
The 3 square ones that you're looking at on the original house are all stained glass. And,
Okay.
you know, they don't open, they're just decorative, you know? I mean, they let light in, but,
Right.
yeah,
so we're trying to keep that square.
Windows in, yeah.
put a bigger one is gonna start to get too close to
To the
the
gable
gable.
there.
I think that's what makes it look a little out of balance, because the gable here is cut, short, the other roof section. So you're not seeing it as a triangle. And even though it's centered, it looks off center. Okay, but,
Okay.
Yeah.
Don, any thoughts on
say
those?
change it or.
Any
'cause I
thoughts
think
on
when you
the
go smaller or bigger, it's still. gonna-
the window
it's
that's in
I,
this?
I,
that-
to me,
Get some evergreens.
You'd make it a little bigger. The one on the back is a double hung, but it just doesn't need to be a double hung because you can't access that window, right?
Which is a double,
Sorry, you have a double hung in the back, which is the loft space. And then you have
Right.
the square window in the front, which you can't access, right? Because
No,
it's-
that's for light. It's
Right, it's
decorative.
it's a two-story space in
It's
that
an
area.
open
Yeah.
cathedral almost.
Okay,
Well, looking at it from the outside, I would make them larger.
you just
than
keep
what
it
they are.
out. Well, this is existing.
Yeah.
I was looking, yeah, if it's in the right spot, okay.
It's like, it doesn't do anything, so why bother with it? And if you're doing something with it,
Mm-hmm.
make it loud enough to see.
So whoever makes a motion to be as noted, we probably have quite a few notes now.
Right.
Sure, I know all of
I don't know, I'll mix it up.
Actually, we don't have many notes, other than just referrals that this is checked out through other departments.
I'll make a motion
Okay.
to approve as submitted with the notes.
Recommendations for plantings.
Sure.
Yeah, I did not hear what he said, I'm sorry.
So the notes we've said, recommendations for plantings, some evergreen trees along the northwest where there's blank wall and driveway adjacent to the neighboring house.
Okay.
A deciduous tree recommended toward the front so that we're not blocking the new window we put in, but it would give some privacy to the neighbor next door. Recommendations on those. It's not requirements, but it's recommended and it's on the record, so. And then recommended this is looked at by the city engineer for percent of lot covered and amount of impervious pavement.
Yeah, I'm sure we gotta go.
It's gonna be by the code.
That's part of the process.
Yeah,
anyway.
that's part of the process, but we're noting that this does have heavy lot coverage, and so if there's any concerns brought up, you want them brought up before you start construction. So,
Right.
and
But we
was there
may
one
change
other?
that driveway completely then. I mean, whatever.
You just
them.
touch base on the
Outside
window.
on the window, let it just stay like it, but
Yeah, I'm fine with the window.
Yeah, to me, there's something a little odd, but I don't know if I can come up with a better solution right now, so, okay.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Sharma?
Yes.
Mr. Midley?
Yes,
Mr. Markovitz?
yes.
Mr. Spice?
Yes,
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all.
We're sorry this was such a hard
Oh,
process,
it's been a
but,
lot of Thursdays, but then
I know.
what you do.
but I do think that it's in a good place right now, so.
All right.
Very
We try
good.
to
Well,
accommodate and make it a better community. So.
Thank you all for your
Yes.
time, it's a thankless job, I know.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
yeah, sure.
Yes, you can go.
We made it through.
Do you have 5 of those copies? Do we have one back, do you think? Or do you need all
We
those?
need at least
We need
2.
2 to stamp.
How many do you guys have down there?
We only have just one copy.
I can give you mine.
We only have 2.
I have more, I can give you.
Okay,
Oh, he has one.
Yes, well,
do you need mine?
you need that? Yeah, just transfer it.
We'll be good.
You'll get one of these stamped ones back too.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That's good, thank you.
It's a pretty historic little spot.
Sorry, that was a long case, other cases, but they have been in here several times and we needed to finish it up.
Yeah, nice work, Ben. You did a good job on it. It's pretty cool.
I'm trying my best. I lose sleep over stuff like this sometimes.
Yeah. Well. Is this here?
Yeah. Right in front. Behind that paper.
No, that doesn't go with this. Okay, the next case we have is case number 211075. It's 9044 Cross Street. This is our first time seeing this case.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, committee members.
Are you a homeowner or?
No, I'm the architect.
You're the architect, okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not sharing very well.
Just
So this is an addition out the rear of the home.
correct.
You had pictures before,
This is the case.
or the existing home, yeah?
Yes.
This is, this is an old church
Okay.
street. I think it's just this one here. It's just the one small set, correct?
Correct.
That's another case. I haven't gotten very far into this, but you have a large window on the left elevation that's behind the refrigerator?
Yeah, that was
That's
existing, and we're still honoring what we're gonna do with that. I've talked to the owner this morning, and I believe since we're replacing all the windows in the home, we'll reduce that to the appropriate size.
So the whole interior of the house is being gutted to start and redone?
I wouldn't say gutted, but a lot of it is being, all the finishes, of course.
Yeah.
There's some structural augmentation as well. I can walk you through the design intent if you wish. As you can see, the existing structure, the square portion of the house, there appeared to be an addition at some point, single-story addition. So what we chose to do as we were looking at compatibility, we decided to take that same scale of 4 squares, so to speak, and replicate that on the back of the house. So in terms of maintaining the integrity of the original design of the house and making sure it was compatible. The interesting thing and challenging portion of it was we have hip roofs over the major part of the house and on the side. And instead of trying to mimic that, we decided to go in a different direction with the shed roof, which sort of is a very clean, low slung approach, which allowed us to not only remove the roof of the single-story, majority of the single-story addition, and elevate those walls to create a nice cathedral experience inside that sort of goes along with the roof line. So we're pretty excited about that. The homeowners would really like that idea. It's a simple gesture. To achieve this shed, we'd have to do it anyway, so why introduce flat ceiling?
The entire house, the existing section is going to be reclad with
Correct.
siding, all
Exactly, and
siding,
we actually initially selected a siding, and then the homeowner and his wife decided on another color, which is this darker sort of grayish color. It's sea slate, which is a nice contemporary, cool gray. And,
It's a vinyl siding or
correct,
painted?
vinyl,
Okay.
vinyl siding, yes.
Vinyl siding, double 4, standard.
4-inch
Okay.
flat.
Does this house have any historical
No.
requirements or protections? Okay.
Is the trim color gonna be white or?
Exactly.
Okay.
What is this?
Cross Street. There's a small aerial image here. I don't know this is very well.
Are you guys gonna re-roof the existing house?
We're working through the budget now. The roof is in fairly good condition. I'm leaning toward re-roofing it so that it's consistent with the new addition, but there's budgetary constraints and the roof is in good shape. And the addition is in the rear of the home. And considering it's a shed, you won't see the actual shingles.
What kind of roofing were you going to put on this?
It's an IKO product, dual gray.
Is it a
It's
shingle
an asphalt shingle, yes.
at a 212 pitch?
Yes.
Usually
Okay.
we don't see anything below 312 for ice damming.
We have a membrane roofing going beneath the shingles, so. And again, once we really would finalize the construction documents, we may end up elevating that just a skosh to meet that requirement, so.
The shingles, if you don't re-roof the existing part, that color is as close as you can get to match the
Correct.
existing. I don't know if you can even match the shingles that are on there or not.
Right. Again, if it's the pleasure of the committee, I believe that the homeowner will be willing to re-roof the entire building. So. He did give me that kind of latitude.
Usually we say the new roof is to match the existing, but if the existing, I mean, I don't know how long you're planning to keep the existing around. We'd want to match the color at least,
Yeah, we
if not
have,
the texture.
right. We have photos of the existing, and again, considering where the addition is located in the rear.
It is on the rear, right?
Excuse me?
Right, it's on the rear, but
Right.
yeah, usually we try to just say match existing roof or whole thing to be re-roofed to match
Yeah.
each other so that you don't have two, unless the roofs are really a different character,
No,
but
they're quite similar with the selection that the owner chose, so.
I mean, it looked like what you were showing with the shingles to cover the membrane shed roof, it's
sort of a
hard to tell
lighter-
from these photos, but it's a light gray.
Yeah, and that's what this is, this particular color. Okay. I can give you the name of
So
it.
if
So
they
you
don't
can-
re-roof it, they're basically matching.
It's dual gray on the lighter hue side.
so my thoughts are, as far as doing new windows and reducing the size of the window, and I would probably just, for keeping the exterior as it is with the exterior windows, I would recommend you change your kitchen layout maybe. And that way you can keep the windows on the exterior. I think that's probably also less expensive
Right.
since this is going to be a new kitchen, right? New cabinets.
Correct.
I would recommend, maybe moving the refrigerator, mirroring it and putting the window or the sink underneath the window,
Sure.
under the small
Yeah,
window, or
for
I
sure.
don't know exactly, but I would recommend that as just a helpful consideration. Otherwise, if you were to change.
Put the refrigerator over the wall.
Yeah, but then I was looking, I'm like, well, then the refrigerator's right next to the sink, and usually you counter on both sides of your sink. So I don't know if that's a better solution, but without,
No.
I would consider looking into, a rearrangement of the kitchen cabinetry versus infilling windows
Right.
and things like that.
Okay.
Since you're buying it new now
Right.
anyway.
No, that's a good idea, and one that we will definitely incorporate.
Well, you know, problem that was, we were supposed to be doing.
Exterior, I know. But I'm looking at, he's talking about changing the windows because
Yeah.
of the
Yeah,
interior.
oh,
And so when I'm saying, rather than changing the exterior windows,
Right.
I would probably just leave the exteriors as they are. But I mean, if you wanted to, then you'd need to show us what you're changing it to.
No, we'll maintain the same size.
Okay.
We just
Yeah,
need to-
otherwise you just come back and say, actually, we decided we're going to take that window out and put a small window in, and here's what it looks like.
No.
So, okay. Okay. That keeps it easier here. And the only other thing is that's a really long, big shed roof.
Yes, a long roof. And no notification to it, other than they'll change the whole look of the house.
Is the slope on the roof, the same on
Very,
both sides?
it's,
What do you mean?
No, they're all going down.
There's only one roof, it's one long plane. One long plane. This is existing house, it's, four sides.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
we,
we
looked at it in various, with various approaches, you know, maintaining a sort of tip on the end, gable to the house, and it really looked bad, so it wasn't as compelling as it is now.
yeah, and then any change would be a massive hit to your budget.
Well, and I'm wondering, if you had a shallow gable that was matching and pitched to what the hip roof is on the main house, if you did a shallow gable going out, I don't know what that looks like, but
Well, we really sold them on that cathedral space on the interior. It was really going to be seen from the street. We'd have thought differently.
I'm gonna Google where this is exactly, because
No.
in most neighborhoods, I would definitely say no to this because it looks completely alien to the existing house.
This house looks pretty
No,
isolated.
you're not gonna see this? No.
This is context.
Okay, good.
Checking it out. Thank you.
Scott, I'm not familiar with
Thank you.
Okay. What's that?
Behind the gate.
Yeah, so this
And
is,
what really aids in that, in mitigating that scale, is
Yeah.
the fact that the neighboring house to the south is quite a distance away. So
Yeah, you're
it's-
on-
It's a lot of open space.
The south side of 82?
Correct.
Is that where it's at?
no, this is
Well, we're on,
off of Cannon.
Oh, okay.
it's north of Cannon.
So Romeo's Pizza, you go
Okay.
past that intersection,
Mm-hmm.
First Street on the left, it's 2 lots north of the corner.
Okay. Yes, I've been back there. There's nothing newer in that area there.
Right. I mean, from the look of the property, I think that it's wonderful that this is being worked on, it's having an addition put on. My only concern is just it's a really long shed roof. Other than that, I mean, I think maybe a window added to that, but I
Yeah.
haven't gotten that far. But that's my only, I think that it's great that you're working on this property. I think that an addition on this is completely appropriate. I think the location of the addition on the property is great, that you're adding an outdoor space alongside it, a deck that faces the driveway. I think that's really good for blending out exterior, interior. A lot of good things going on here. We have sliding glass doors from both the addition and the existing house going out onto that deck. We have some sort of fenestration window on each side. Are the elevations different than the plan? Hold on, let me see something here.
I think staff might have not added a couple windows, existing windows.
That's what I'm wondering.
That's
Yeah,
what
the
it is.
existing house in plan shows many windows, and then when I go to the elevation, it looks very blank.
What I've noticed that when I put these drawings up in the printers, this is in essence, it's just a profile of existing.
Okay, so we are missing a chimney, we're missing some windows, because I looked at this and thought it's really blank looking.
So this is what,
Okay, so
obviously you don't see this
we're
down.
gonna need to mark that on here.
Right,
Yeah,
it does make a difference seeing everything on there.
I do write them.
It breaks it up a little
Yeah, if
bit.
you don't mind, I'm gonna add that on here.
Right, because I was looking at a plain wall there before. Or assuming it was. Big's the property, it looks like it's good size.
We're actually 44 feet from the rear property line.
Yeah, not like I said, on a third acre, what's it? You don't know, half acre.
Okay, and then currently, there's a window here.
Are you drawing it down?
I drew it on the one.
Okay. Do you want to draw this one too?
Yeah, oh yeah, we can see it in the picture here, that it's that way.
Or? Right. You guys got two
Something's
copies, right?
missing here. So you have, on the plan, it looks to be a double hung window in the master suite on the north side. But then when we look at the north
Yeah.
elevation, you show sliding glass doors.
Yeah, it will be a double hung.
So it'll be a double hung
Correct.
window? Okay, and the sliding glass door is on the
South
south.
side. Correct.
Right. And that seems right, it goes out onto the deck.
Mhm.
Now it's windows. Are we missing a closet window in the elevation too? We are.
Closet window?
It says, what's the new closet off of bedroom 2? You have a window in the closet in the plan.
Well, that's what I just showed you on this map. This profile?
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's that.
Okay, let me put that window in too. All right. Yeah, so this is a little further over than there, and then this is an existing window.
Right.
So you're keeping this existing wall, and then you're just
No, no.
residing over it?
Correct.
You're not tearing this down?
No.
You're building on top of it?
Yes. We put in new studs. We're not demoing the existing base.
Okay. So
We're sistering studs and just extending them out to the new roof.
so this part right here is actually existing, but being just resided.
Correct.
And then these are obviously new studs running that whole, and then the wall above, you're sistering and
Sistering from the floor.
from the floor all the way up to the roof.
Correct.
Okay, that works. All right.
Trying to
I'll fix
minimize
this
our
one.
demo.
Make a motion. It looks better now with the windows and the chimney and all of that on here.
Yeah, I knew I caught that late in the game.
I'll draw it on here. And you said you're doing the membrane underneath the shingles
Correct.
for ice damming?
Yeah.
You made a motion,
I
right?
didn't make a motion.
But you will.
I was waiting for someone else to.
Do we need
Like
notes?
you're making some changes with the windows, aren't you?
Yes, actually, we're changing the elevation to match the plan. So it's not our changes that we're making, it's just that their elevation was not representing what is shown on the plan, and so we are coordinating those.
Correctly.
Yeah.
So what we'll do, we'll make the modifications in the office and send new drawings to the city.
So is the
As we
motion
move
as
forward.
noted? Or are you just gonna do the drawing?
I'd make it as noted, because we did make that the elevations are being updated to match the intent of the plans, and that new drawings will be submitted.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Midley,
Yes.
Mr. Sharma,
Yes.
Mr. Markovitz,
Yes.
Mr. Spice,
Yes.
Ms. Frazier.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
great
you.
evening. And we look forward to completing this construction.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you're marking 2 sets of AP stamp?
Yeah, it'll be, she'll have it all drawn for you.
Yeah, it's on.
You want to stamp?
No, keep it that way. Don't break this. Yeah,
Don't break the chain.
yeah, no, don't do anything different.
Oh, and
Start that one.
Here you go, Gene.
This has been sitting there for, it's been sitting for about 4 years.
I guess,
Yeah.
okay, through the board, I went home during the period I was on.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because I didn't know anything.
I missed quite a few meetings in a row.
I missed the last one. They didn't send us an
No, I
email.
mean, there's somebody's over there, they're doing construction over things.
Let's keep it like
Yeah, this been closed 15 years. 12 years, something, 10, 12 years.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. It doesn't seem that
I
long
haven't
ago.
seen any, heard anything in the news about another restaurant coming in and Portugal.
Another Mexican restaurant.
I can't believe that here.
There's one right here. One over there.
That place looks busy all the time.
That's just across from my house. I went there. I was there Monday and Tuesday.
Which place?
Mexican tacos over here on the road.
On Idlewood, yeah? Idlewood, yeah. Is it good? Because I see it packed.
Okay, last case of the evening, case 21-1076, which is 2019 Trailwood. Hi.
Hi.
I see, just like sometimes the parking lot's overflowed. Taco Tuesday? Is it? No wonder
So
why
you
it's
were
so
in
busy
once
on Tuesday.
before, twice before?
Well, technically
Third
once.
Check only
Yes,
once.
yes,
We weren't
right.
on the agenda that
Okay.
We just sat and wanted to hear the process.
Yeah, it's not
Okay.
always like this.
Be-
Well,
better
I don't
than
know
a
which
Game
ones
of
you sat in
Thrones.
on, but
Yeah.
it just depends who's here. Sometimes it's signs and we're really fast, other times there's, yeah.
Yeah, they're not
And
all
the
like
cases
this
are
one.
in order that they were submitted. So
No problem.
they try to be fair.
I just want to make my flight to Los Angeles for the Browns game.
Tonight?
Tonight, yeah.
Okay.
But it just got delayed an hour and a half, or an hour and 15 minutes.
He's late for everything.
Yeah.
And you'll still land there by midnight,
Oh,
right?
why not?
Midnight their
Yeah.
time.
Right,
Yeah.
1:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
You retired, I was just gonna say, he's retired. That's me next year.
It's wonderful.
You are? Okay.
What development is this in?
Meadowwood,
Meadowwood, so you're in the back part of Meadowwood?
yes. We have to keep up with the Joneses because
Yeah.
Everybody down there is
Everyone's
putting additions
Yeah,
on.
they-
Nice.
we're so friendly down there, nobody wants to move, so they,
Yeah.
you know.
We've threatened our neighbors if they move, actually.
Yeah, you're lucky.
Don't you
right?
we like you.
We've done that.
Maybe I'll move down the hill.
Yeah.
Move down the hill into Sherwood.
A lot of partying going on, so.
I'm probably gonna build my next one.
No, it looks like a nice kitchen remodel's going on. Nice appliances. Yeah.
What time do you have to get out of here by? Just curious.
Oh,
It's not too
You got an hour. We're not
We
gonna
have
take
to
an
go to
hour.
El-
You got 20 minutes?
El
I think we'll
Toro
be
Bravo.
okay.
We're trying
for
to
dinner.
support
The
the prom
senior
committee
prom
next.
fundraiser.
Yeah.
So we'll expect to see you all there after the meeting.
Okay. And that's tonight too, right?
We got,
The
tonight is,
the prom fundraiser.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
So the last time you came in, we weren't sure about the shape of the kitchen addition and what the roof would be, whether it was a bay window or if it was a beige structure, or, so this now is very clear as to what the intent is.
Yes, it'll be, it comes out 8 feet cantilever, it'll be cantilever 2 feet, just like the existing.
But it has a foundation underneath the
Yes.
main body of it.
Yes.
It's
Crawl
a
space.
crawl space, yeah.
Correct.
So 2 double hung windows and then 1 picture window over the sink
Yes.
in elevation. Gutters and downspouts.
Yes.
I think the roof line makes sense. What you're doing now. Before that was the real issue, is what do you do to the roof? And I see that your solution was that you made the 2 windows in the bedrooms, or I think those are bedrooms, to the 2 windows on the second story next to the garage. You reduced the height of the windows.
Yes.
And you made them wider.
Yes. I think there's a note there, we're gonna kind of wait and see, gonna go put as much windows we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
We love the windows, love the light.
Right. Are those in the same room or 2 different rooms?
2 different rooms.
Okay.
And they both have egress front and back too, so it won't be the only,
Not the only window,
yeah,
right?
there's a
Okay.
full double hung in the back and a full double hung in the front.
So each of those rooms still has another full window.
Correct.
I know it's disappointing not to have matching size windows on the inside, but there's always a concession whenever you do some sort of
Oh,
addition.
the window is my thing. I just, no, you're not putting those little windows in, but.
You get more wall space though, right?
One of my
otherwise-
daughter's room, she's having a heart attack. I have no windows, you know. Move
Can
on.
you give her another window
Move on. No,
on,
she's
further down on the wall?
wall.
Give her another window over here, maybe? I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but it's not necessary.
To the,
It's all
closer
good.
to the corner, to the
Yeah.
back. We thought of that full window there.
Give her a full window there. I would put it in as an option,
Yeah,
note as an option. You don't have to come back through if you decide to do that.
okay.
Okay.
That's why I'm just saying it.
On
For the
what
record.
elevation?
If they decide to add another window to the left
Oh.
elevation on the second story of the main body of the house, toward the rear,
Okay.
It was suggested by the architect.
yeah, if you decide to do that, just make it match either the new window size or the window that's on the rear that's in the same room.
Okay.
So. I think that would be fine. So then the other question I'd have about this is, wait a second. On the elevation, we show a window into the storage, and on the plan, we show a door.
Yeah, it's a door. Yeah,
It's a door,
That's a
okay.
mistake. Yeah, there'll definitely be a man door. It has to be a man door off the back of the garage.
Okay, so you have one door that goes into the mudroom,
Yes.
and then you have one door that goes into garage storage.
Yes.
From the exterior, okay.
Yes.
So I'll draw that.
And then our intention is, again, to rebuild the deck because we have a hot tub, and then the hot tub will just exit right to the mud room. So that'll all get rebuilt. I think it should be on the actual pictures where the deck is, etc. So our plan is to make it wonderful.
Yes. Because you're planning to stay. Everybody's always planning to stay when they come here.
Are you doing it all yourself?
Yes. That's what you do when you're retired.
I might have to.
This is a good project. This is a big project.
Well, every day, correct. Between watching the grandkids and
To be
getting.
fair, he made it bigger. I will, this was him.
Personal recommendation on the inside, your existing garage door, it swings left-handed into the garage instead of against the wall. It just looks a little odd.
Correct. Out to in, you mean, existing?
The existing garage door that comes from your hallway, your new hallway, I guess, into the garage, it looks like it's on backwards. I don't know if it's that way in real life, but while you're doing all of this, if you were to switch the hand of the door, now would be the time.
Oh,
to
yeah.
do it.
It's a pain in the neck,
I would flip
the way it
it.
is now, right.
Recommendation,
It
not
bangs
required.
into the vanity and you,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend it, but it's not required. So the only other thing I had on here was the long elevation with no windows on the side of the garage, because we are now extending it even longer. So, consideration for adding, because you already have a man door, usually we add the man door on the side elevation, but you already have a man door into that garage storage space. So that doesn't seem necessary. So then it's just, I don't know if there's a window on that wall somewhere.
Are you talking about would that be the east side of the house where the garage is being extended?
Yes.
You want something there?
Maybe something on that elevation, because it was a 20 foot or so wall with no window, which already we don't usually send through. And now it's going to be approximately 30 feet with no windows.
We could put the door there. Would the door satisfy with the door there on that side? Because that's going to be the storage area, so where the door actually would be.
Whether it's from the side or from the rear.
Right. But then you'll take away from what the rear looks like, but
I know, let me see the rear again.
I mean, technically, we could put the window there and put the door on the side.
If they needed to. I mean, it's a garage, it's storage. Nobody wants to see in there.
The rear was shown a window already there.
But in the plan, it's a door.
Yeah, that's
But,
what-
you're saying go back to the window and put the door on the side? All right, owner's option, either window on the side or door on the side, either window on the rear, door on the rear, minimum one door.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds good.
you can decide that after.
I'll make a motion to approve it as noted. With the only notes really were options, weren't
The requirement for one garage man door, the addition of a window, I don't know, it showed a window on the elevation, right? One window on the side or door, one window on the back or door. Recommendation, I mean, that's not even on the record. The door inside, that's just, I see it as an opportunity right now to flip it if you ever
Right.
wanted to. And
Yeah.
then, was there anything else?
That was it.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll second.
Looks good. Oh, no, the option of the second story window.
Oh,
If they
Correct, I
decide-
do have that
You
noted,
have
yes.
that in there, okay.
Yes, yep. Mr. Markovitz?
yes.
Mr. Sharma?
Yes.
Mr. Millett?
Yes.
Mr. Spice?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
All good? Good to see you.
Have a great trip.
Yeah, good luck.
Enjoy.
Oh, yeah. You laugh, people.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, I got twin boys that live in that. So one of them owns an RV, so they already preserved the lot and everything, so just a ton of kids that they grew up with, they're all, one even was in Israel, he's coming in for the game, so it'll be wonderful. Yeah, oh yeah, and we have good seats too supposedly. Yeah, so supposedly front row, that second one.
Oh, gosh. Oh, yeah, keep me posted.
What did you get, 2?
Wonderful third grade.
I'll draw my mind. That's it. Or just sign this one.
Both row?
We'll sign.
Yeah.
That's a true
Here, skip this one.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, have a great trip.
Thank you.
I forgot you were marking.
Yes. What, did you sign this already?
Did you sign on my line?
Did I?
Yes.
We still write the same way.
But I crossed the line today somehow. You're gonna sign on my line today.
Yeah,
That's your first and last
I'm
one.
a wannabe on it.
So does anybody else know what's going on with Damon's, old Damon's restaurant?
Other than
No, but I looked up who owns it. The person who owns Sushi N owns the new Damon's restaurant, or owns the old Damon's restaurant
Has it
property.
gotten stuff out of it, or they actually,
Huh.
because they got a construction crew who's been back there for a while.
So they must be turning it to something. But I don't see it coming through here.
I haven't seen anything, but I didn't know if something could have come through here last year when I went over.
How long they owned that, Jen, do you remember?
I don't remember how long. I just looked up who's the current property owner.
Okay.
yeah, it's a long time.
And what other chains, and then I looked up what other chains they own, just to see what restaurant.
Didn't they have some kind of sewage backup problem there when it rained and water
I didn't know that.
sewage would back up in the building and there
God,
was
it's
a lot of.
been
It's
so
been
long
empty since
ago.
I moved here, and I've been
Yeah.
here 12 years.
Yeah.
It's been empty the whole time.
I know, I've eaten there a couple of times, 15 years back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to one of the other Damon's, but the food was just all right. Never,
Yeah,
made me want to go back again.
Yeah.
it's pretty much like almost any other bar.
Are we doing,
Decent,
Thank you.
yeah.
Don had something to talk about.
Yeah, I was, as everybody knew, we had our firm, the old firm that I used to own, when its 50th anniversary. And so they had a big do when, a couple of weeks ago. And I brought some things from that kind of told what was going on. And I'm sorry I don't have
Copies for everybody.
copies for
We
everybody.
can pass it down.
But this is a booklet that they put out for the party. They had a party, a celebration a couple weeks ago. And then within that, they put their projects. They've got the names of all the people.
Thank you.
Yep, that's me. So it's from the start, and I started the firm in 1971.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says it.
Yeah, and then I trained these people who own it now, and then when we sold it, they took over, and they made it even better than the firm we had before. And I'm was just very proud of the work that they do. As it's not easy. I think they probably are, have about 20 people working for them. And that's a big payroll to
Yeah.
keep going and keep getting projects. And our church up here is one of the projects. And but
You see Twinsburg Banking Company?
and they tried to give everybody that had anything to do with their success some time here. And so all the names of all the people that worked at that office.
Twinsburg Public Library?
Mm-hmm.
The people that worked at that office just grew and worked very hard and
St. Cosmos
Made it go.
Anglican Church? So many more in Twinsburg.
that's, yeah.
You've been very influential in the community.
Yeah.
These are a lot of our most well-known buildings.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you did Lake Health West.
Yep.
Hmm.
We did a lot of healthcare, and we didn't start out that way, but we began to get some healthcare and where most architects decided that they wanted to do something much more, to their liking, we saw that there was knowing what you needed in healthcare. There's a lot of rules that that influence you, and so you gotta know those things. And it was I worked there for I don't know. I probably retired 30 years ago. And I've kept in touch with them all the time. And I had another partner when we started the firm, and he was a World War II guy, and so he was much older than me, and he had fought he was a tank. He drove a tank destroyer during the war. A tank destroyer sounds what it sounds like. It destroys normal-sized tanks. It's a great big tank. And he was in the first breakthrough on the line between the Germans and the Americans when they were retaking the land that was taken away from them. So he was in that, and he was the first tank across the whatever river that is. And it was on a pontoon plank bridge. So he drove across all these plated tanks. He never talked about it. He had to pull it out of his. For a long time, he was my partner. I didn't know any of these things about what he actually did in the war. But then it came out, and then there were other books written that talked about it.
World War II
Yeah, a
or
lot of the
III?
guys that like to talk about it.
Which one?
My brother-in-law was in
World War
the
II.
Yes, yeah, that was World War II.
Okay.
Stories about what he saw over there. And I know he
Yeah.
saw
There's not a lot of
all
World War
kinds of
II.
stuff.
And my dad was in Korea, he doesn't talk about it a lot.
They're in a field.
Right.
I don't think for any bad reason, it just comes up, you know? I have cousins in Vietnam.
But I was very fortunate to get the clients that I got, to make good use of it and to team up with a staff that was blended in with what we needed.
I thought that was really nice on one of the last pages in there, they listed, I don't know, 80, 100 names. Because I'm sure you had a lot of people come and go over the years.
Oh, yeah, they've got every, in that little booklet, they got everybody that ever worked for them. Yeah. Even if they'd worked 3 weeks, they're on the
They're on
list.
there. They were part of one of those projects, they contributed.
Yes. And, when we had the get together, a lot of these guys are well, they're all younger than me, but they were older people than the guys who are actually running the firm now. And so there was a lot of people that came back to celebrate. It was all fun.
Computers changed everything, but
Oh, yeah.
I did a lot of work for different architects, and you go downtown and you'd see all these desks, and no one sits at them anymore, and they're all lined up in their spaces.
Yeah.
Those places under the
Don,
buildings.
I saw some people posted on
Yep.
Facebook some of this, your celebration.
Our average would be about 15 to 20 people who came to us.
Okay. That's fun.
And sometimes you're worried about where the payroll was going to come from.
Yeah. That's everyone, in every business.
Well, yeah, especially smaller businesses.
Yeah, it changes fast.
And I was very fortunate in that I was able to keep that going and I'd like to brag a little bit. When I went out for an interview with a client, I didn't take any papers with me. I didn't take anything. I winged it.
One time or all the time?
Every
time?
Every time.
Okay.
I never took it. I never had a piece of paper to read from. I probably would be able to read and talk at the same time anyway. So, but it was just, and the other people, and even the clients commented about that. But you talked about all this, but I didn't see everybody read anything. Well, I know what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. Just all in all, it was fun. Some days weren't.
Yeah. Had a good career.
And a lot of nice people worked with me. And if you didn't have that, you wouldn't have a firm. Thank you for hearing me out.
Well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Very nice. That's a nice booklet too.
It is a
I
nice
really like
booklet.
that they did it chronologically.
Absolutely. That's what they said. They just printed a couple of those booklets for the guys who were right there that day, and then so many people wanted them that they had to keep printing. And of course, they're advertising for them, so they want everybody to have one.
Yeah, you should drop one off at the library.
Yeah.
It has a lot of Twinsburg buildings, and they
Right.
might be interested to know who's the architect.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have the motions the minutes from last time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we motioned to table that to later. Do we want to read it now, or are we waiting till next meeting?
I think you just wait till next meeting.
Did you guys not receive the email with the minutes? It was attached with the agenda.
It was attached with the agenda, the one.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did get that.
I just want to make sure, because I was loading them up. I want to
Okay.
make sure I just, like, mess
It
up.
may have come, I didn't read it.
Okay.
I didn't see it,
I didn't
I
see
saw it and marked it as spam.
All right, well, let's save it for next week. The cases on here did not come back today, so I don't think it influences anything if we
Yeah.
wait until next meeting to approve it.
I'll read it tonight.
We'll give it, yeah, give us time to read it. So then, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second that.
All third.
Mrs. Fraser?
Yes.
We're fortunate that everybody has showed up in that thunderstorm.
Yes, yeah.
I would have shown up last time, this, I never got.
On my window, my truck was open.
Mr. Midlick?
Yes.
Mr. Markovitz?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Spice?
Yes.